The following program is for mature audiences only. Football talk shows, most of them sound like this. Blah, 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 blah. Not this one. That's because it features the former director of college scouting with the Chicago Bears. He worked on the staff that drafted, the likes of Devin Hester, Olin Kreutz, Lance Briggs. He's the man who takes shit from absolutely nobody. He's Greg Gabriel. Gabriel joins longtime Chicago sports reporter David Schuster. And this is, accordingly, Gabriel Schuster Talk Bears.
And welcome into the latest edition of the Gabriel Schuster podcast. I'm David Schuster, and that man, he's still wearing that red Defender.
Oh, I got five
uniform.
I got five of them.
You got five of them.
Well, hell yeah, man. I was management. So
I always get teased a lot, Greg, because I have a lot of sports paraphernalia from all the teams in town, covering them over the years, with his Bulls and Bears and Blackhawks, White Sox and Cubs. And I always get teased by my friends and even members of my family. But you know what? It's one of the small perks of the job that I get paraphernalia from the different teams. It's just the way it is.
No, as soon as we get done with this thing, I got to go over and do rehab on my leg. I wear sweats, so I'm ready to go because they beat the hell out of me when I'm over there. I call a guy a fucking sadist. Excuse my language.
No, we'll send the tape to him.
I know, but I do because he hurts me when he's working my knee. But that's what he's supposed. That's what he's getting paid to do.
Absolutely. That's what he's supposed to do. And by the way, you don't know this, but secretly we're going to film one of those sessions and play it back here.
You got to find out where I'm at first. So,
we'll tell you.
Okay.
We'll tell you. Anyway, Today we preview Sunday's game at Soldier Field against, I don't want to call them the new and improved Detroit Lions. I'll call them the new Lions, probably the old Lions, actually. But you tell me, Greg, they have a new head coach going into this upcoming game. They've had the bye week. They've had some time off. What do you expect out of a Detroit Lions team that's really the same personnel, though?
Well, number one, it's not a new head coach. He's an interim coach because he's going to be history in another month. You know what? It's hard to gauge these things. You could I've seen it happen both ways. The team could get all fired up and play their best game of the season, against the Bears, but I just don't see it happening. Not only did the head coach get fired, but the GM got fired. So it's not like the people in the building right now are the guys who are going to be grading them. It's going to be whoever the next coach is. I don't see Bevel's been the quote head coach of the defense, all year as the offensive coordinator. I don't see any changes in the offense at all. There could be some slight changes in the defense because Patricia's not there anymore. So his blueprint isn't going to be around. But that's not a good football team. Are they going to be fired up in the first quarter? Sure they are. But, after that, who knows what to expect. But, you know how I feel about Matt Stafford. Guy with the greatest stats in the world who can't win a football game to save his life. So, and he always plays terribly against the Bears, and Trubisky always has his best games of the year against the Lions for some reason. So I think we're going to break the doldrums this week, but who knows?
Well, I'm going to jump the shark here and tell you that I am picking the Bears for one of the rare occasions.
Now we're done. Team's done.
Listen, I'm not only picking the Bears this week. I'm going in a week in advance and picking them the next 2 weeks. Because after the hapless Lions, it comes in even the more hapless Jacksonville Jaguars, who have lost 10 straight games.
And Mike Glennon.
And Mike Glennon. Oh, my God. It's a reunion of Mike Glennon at Soldier Field. Too bad the fans won't be there.
I know.
All right, we're going to talk about Trubisky. We'll hear from Trubisky. We'll hear from Matt Nagy. We'll hear from Chuck Pagano, who, by the way, took real umbrage. Well, just because we got to kill 45 minutes. By the way, Pagano took real umbrage against some of the criticism that was levied against his Bears defense in Sunday night's game. Did you see that, Greg?
No, but that's what a coach does. He's got to stand up for his players. His players were getting heat. They played their worst game in probably 2 years against Green Bay on Sunday. They deserve criticism, but he's the coordinator, so he's got to publicly stand up. He could have been ripping their rear end in meetings, but in public, he's got to stand up for them and to show them he's got their back, and that's all part of the game.
Greg, I got to ask you a professional question. I can't keep these stupid earbuds in my ears. How do you do it?
I push them in.
Well, I push mine in, but they keep falling out. I'm tempted to get the crazy glue.
Well, don't do that. Then they'll be there forever.
Yeah, they're right. All right, listen, we're going to do a lot of things here on this podcast today. And talk about fired up, by the way. I mean, the Lions, yeah, you're right. They'll probably be fired up for about one quarter, and then they'll just fall back into being who they are with their interim head coach. But the Bears, in theory, should be fired up because their head coach lambasted them at least Monday of this week. We're recording this today on Thursday. He said, well, should have been embarrassed. We are embarrassed. They should be fired up, yada, yada, yada. It's just, coach speak, which sort of bothers me, Greg. And we talked about this earlier. Why do you have to, take off on your team after 5 losses? Why can't you take off after them after 1 or even 2 losses?
Well,
why does it take 5?
Well, number one, David, that's the talk for public consumption. For the media and for the fans.
I know that.
You take it. I mean, you've been around forever doing this. Now I'm saying your age. You've been around forever. So
I have.
It's what they do. So you let it go in one ear and out the other. Privately is what we'd like to know is being said, but you're never going to know that unless you got a fly on the wall inside Hallis Hall, and none of us have that. So, the thing I think that's interesting is that not all, the fans are fired up, or the media, talk radio, etc. They're fired up. They want somebody said, but that's typical in Chicago. It's not that way in the small cities, but in big cities like Chicago, LA, New York, when things aren't going well, the fans and the media want somebody's head. So they want Nagy's head. They want Ryan Pace's head. And now, just a few minutes ago, I put on my favorite website, Pro Football Talk, and I guess they're saying maybe it should be Ted Phillips' head. So, they're getting at everybody this week.
Are you telling me, by the way, in a smaller city, your hometown of Buffalo, New York, that the media doesn't take off on the team like they do when they're not playing well, like they do here in Chicago?
Exactly. I'm saying that.
Well,
I lived there for 50 years. They don't. It's number one. It's a one newspaper town. Now, when I was a kid, there was 2, but the other one folded. So now it's a one newspaper town, and you got one sports station. No, they're more fans than anything else. I mean, yeah, they get pissed off, but they don't scream and holler like they do here. You got competition here, so it's a different story.
All right, listen, like we always do, let's go over the opponent. We talked about the Lions earlier in the season. They just have a few more numbers to their name. So, again, they have a new coach, a new general manager, interim, if you will, going into this game.
Who's the interim general manager? I don't even know. The guy who's president. He's the guy who's the president of the team or something. That means nothing.
It means nothing. And and he'll do nothing, and he'll be replaced at the end of the season too. So
right.
we won't even talk about it. All right, we talk about Matthew Stafford. He's got a quarterback percentage rate of 63%. He's got 18 touchdowns. He's got 8 interceptions. He's got a QB rating of 92.7. It's really interesting, Greg, because in the last game when, unfortunately, Aaron Rodgers just tore the Bears apart, and he went over the 50,000 yard mark. Well, Stafford's got 44,000 yards to his name also in his career. I think a few years less overall than Rodgers. As you've said many a times, he's a productive quarterback numbers-wise, but he doesn't win.
He's never won. And that goes back to college. He didn't win in college either. And that was, I remember having this conversation with Jerry Angelo when he was coming out, and, we were talking about the quarterbacks and the year, and I go, Jerry, let's look at this realistically here. He's got a team. He's surrounded by Mercedes and BMWs on that team, and he don't win anything. And he never took that team to the SEC title game. Never won an SEC title. He's a quarterback that looks good. He says the right things. Puts up a lot of numbers. But the bottom line is he doesn't win. And that goes, like I said, goes back to college. And I don't know how long he's been in the league now, 12 years or something like that. He's a guy. He's a guy with big numbers. I wouldn't give him 10 cents.
Well, he's got a hot wife, so at least he won in that department. We'll give him that. We're going to hear from Chuck Pagano in just a second here. We'll have that queued up. But let's talk about Adrian Peterson from the running back position. He didn't start the season with them. He's got 444 yards. It's only 3.7 yards per carry, Greg. So it's not exactly like he's been super productive. But what's really interesting, I saw a quote from him. He says he's been rejuvenated. And he says, he might want to play until he's into his 40s. I don't think that's going to happen. Do you?
Well, you know what? Adrian Peterson started off the year pretty good for a couple of weeks, and now he's got 444 yards, 3.7 yard average, 27-yard long gain. He's an older running back. You get into the second half of the season, legs start to go, production goes down. When he's got fresh legs at the beginning of the year, he makes plays. You won't see it now.
I don't think
he could. Yeah, you could see him pop one because anyone could pop one. But at the same time, his down-to-down production just isn't there anymore in the second half of the season.
All right, let's hear from Chuck Pagano because he's got thoughts not only on Adrian Peterson but also the entire Lions offense.
We have to be better. We have to be better against him. We got to be better against Swift. 33. The quarterback is phenomenal. He's a gunslinger. He's got all the arm talent. We know that, how good Stafford is. They're going to come in, loose as all get out. And, they got a really good offense and they got really good players. And they're going to get, Galladay back and 11 and 80 and the tight ends. And, we got our hands full. They got a bunch of dudes over there that can play, not only AP, but a bunch of other dudes, and they got a quarterback that's played a long time that, can throw for a gazillion yards on anybody. So there's no stress or pressure here. Believe me. What are you going to do? They can't eat you. You just you gotta saddle up and put all that crap behind you and move on.
Hey, Greg, if you want to believe what he just tossed
number one, half of it was broken up. But he starts laughing because he knew he was telling you a bunch of shit. And he wasn't believing what he was saying himself. And that's why he started laughing. I'll tell you what, I'll go back to when I started working in the league in 1980, 81 for the Buffalo Bills as part-time. And remember Chuck Knox?
Sure.
Chuck Knox was the head coach, and Chuck would have his press conferences. And I don't care who they could be playing the worst team in football. It could be the end of the year, and Buffalo could be, say it's the 12th game, 13th game of the year. Buffalo could be 9-3, and they're playing a team that's won 2 games. They could be 2-11 or 2-10, and you go, they're the best 2-10 team in football. Yeah, so what? They stink, and so trying to sell to the media and to the fans that this is a good team. Detroit is not a good team. They just got their head coach fired. What does that tell you? They stink.
Yeah, that's also out of the old Lou Holtz school of, praising your upcoming opponent. He used to do that all the time when he was at Notre Dame. I think at one time he was actually even praising up Slippery Rock or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
It's a joke.
That's what coaches do. To me, it means nothing. It's to give the media something to write about, give the talk show guys something to talk about, but it means nothing. You take it with a grain of salt and you go on, you look at the tape, you know who's good, you know who's bad. Here's the thing. These guys are pros and they got to play good to retain their job. Otherwise they're cut unless they got a contract that you just can't cut them. And so the pride should come into play here. But when players don't want to play and look at Houston. Houston did not want to play for Bill O'Brien. Now, okay, they let him go. They bring in Romeo. Romeo Crennel, I've known since 1984 because I worked with him in New York. Great guy. People want to play for Romeo. And what's happened? They're playing better right now. Now, who knows what the relationship is with Bevel in Detroit? And, could they play hard for this guy? Yeah, but the offense hasn't been that good to begin with. So, and he's been running the offense because Patricia, in Houston, O'Brien really ran the offense. He didn't have a lot to do with the defense. Well, but in Detroit, Patricia ran the defense. Bevel was running the offense, and the offense wasn't that good to begin with. So, where are they going to go from here?
All right. Well, speaking of the Lions offense, I mean, when they are cooking, which isn't very often, usually their passing game is ahead of their running attack. Their tight end, TJ Hawkinson, is that how you say his name?
Yeah, Hawkinson. He's got 45 catches.
Yeah, he leads the team. From the wide receiver position, Marvin Jones has got 43. I don't think Kenny Galladay is going to play in this game. He's got
he's only got 20. He's only played in 5 games, and he's got 20 catches. Danny Amendola, he's as old as you and me. He's playing in the slot, and he's got 44 catches or 44 targets. He's only got 26 catches. The guy you got to go into that game and you say, we're going to stop TJ Hawkinson and we're going to stop Marvin Jones. And Marvin Jones is 43 catches. It's not like he's knocking out the league here.
Right,
with 43 catches. I mean, you look at the Bears numbers, and you got Allen Robinson with 71 receptions, Darnell Mooney with 36, Anthony Miller with 37, Jimmy Graham with 38, Dave Montgomery with 35. Actually, their passing offense, as bad as it's been, when you look at the numbers are better than Detroit's are. And there's more people making plays for Chicago than Detroit has making plays in the passing game.
All right, defensively, the Lions, not so great either. Jamie Collins leads them with 82 tackles. They have 16 sacks. Romeo, how do you say this guy's name? Okwara? Yeah. He leads a team with 6. What's his claim to fame getting to the quarterback? How does he do it?
He's an athletic guy. In fact, they got both Okwara brothers on that team. The other one's a rookie. And they're both tall, lean, long, athletic guys that could, got some burst coming off the edge. They can be dangerous. And with the tackle play that the Bears have been getting, that can be a problem. But it's not like they're going to be the best guys the Bears have played, because they're not.
All right, defensively, again, it's not exactly like that. Defense turns the ball over that often. They have 11 so far this season, 7 interceptions, 4 fumble recoveries. In fact, Greg, and I'm thinking back to the Lovey teams where they used to, if you didn't have 2 turnovers by the defense in a Lovey game, I think he would consider that probably a failure. And a lot of times they had 3, 4, or 5. I'm not seeing that much in football this season, where you have defenses that are known for just coming up with turnovers game after game after game. Why is that?
I can't really answer that. I mean, part of creating turnovers is luck. You got like the Tillman chop and things, and you got to be lucky for that to happen. Some of it's ball skills. You've talked about it. You got to turn and look for the ball. Like Johnson, the Bears rookie quarterback, he's got a ton of PBUs. He doesn't have any interceptions. He's got to start making more plays on the ball as far as getting the interception. And one thing we don't know is that what kind of hands does he got? There was no preseason. You couldn't go to practice. Doesn't mean you couldn't go to practice. So nobody really knows what kind of hands. And I'm not criticizing, because he's had an excellent rookie season, but he's still got no interceptions.
Okay, one last thing about the Lions kicking game. Matt Prater, he's 18 of 25 on the season. Most of his misses have been from long range, like most kickers. He won a game a couple of weeks ago with a 59-yarder. So, he's been there for a while. And obviously, Prater's the one who's got the all-time record, does he not, with 64 yards?
That I couldn't tell you. I don't pay that close attention to what Detroit does. But Prater inside is almost automatic.
Yeah.
Now you're going to be outside. Who knows if there's going to be wind on Sunday? I think right now the forecast is for weather in the 30s, but that could change tomorrow.
All right, we're not going to go over all the numbers for the Bears because we do that each and every week, and they don't really change that much. But we will point out about Trubisky, and obviously he is starting the game. There was no doubt about that, and it's a twofold reason. I mean, they switched to him, mostly because Nick Foles was injured and probably still is. I mean, he's been out there, I think, on the field the last couple of days, but he's nowhere near 100%, and Trubisky's healthier, so why wouldn't you? But specifically against the Lions, Greg, and listen, there's always one team that you play well against, and in this instance, it happens to be against a bad team. But Trubisky's 5-0 in his career against them, 1,600 yards, 14 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, a QB rating of 106. This is a no-brainer. You're going to go with Trubisky in this game.
You know what? If Foles was healthy, they might go with Mitch in this game, only because he's undefeated against Detroit. If for some reason he plays good against that team, he showed on Sunday night against Green Bay that, he's not. I thought he might be a little timid trying to run the ball because he had the shoulder injury. That did not show on Sunday night. He was running with the ball when the opportunity presented itself. So and now that he's another week out from that injury, it should be a little bit stronger, healed a little bit more. That's going to be another part of the Bears game that we hope can help the offense.
All right, we're going to hear from Matt Nagy here in just a couple of seconds. And yes, he did say that it was a no-brainer. He was very quick in his press conference earlier in the week that Trubisky was going to start. But then philosophically, he was asked, which quarterback is better suited overall for his offense? Here's the head coach.
No, I don't. And, for us right now, we have, I thought last week with Mitch in there, I thought that, there was a couple plays here or there where progressions, and then the turnovers, which we know we don't want to have the ball on the ground and the interceptions. But both guys, for different reasons, at times, I thought decision making has been good, and both guys have had issues as well with just with some of the play, and then just us all in general, all of us. And so I'm not going to get into one or the other. I think they both have their strengths, and that's what we try to work off of, between both those guys. So again, we're trying to focus right now on our offense in general and just trying to get that thing up and running. And I thought it was better last week. We just got behind so early that we got a little bit out of our game plan.
I don't know if there's a real answer to the question which one of these two quarterbacks is better suited for, his particular offense. As long as you don't turn over the ball, which unfortunately Trubisky did 3 times in this last game, whatever quarterback doesn't turn the ball over, to me, is the one who's better suited.
In all honesty, David, I don't think either one is perfectly suited for this offense, because neither one is we've come to realize neither one is a legitimate number 1 quarterback in the National Football League. But in listening to Coach Nagy's answer, he's being very diplomatic. He's not about to throw either one under the bus. So he's trying to be as nice as he can, and he's given the answer that he has to give.
All right, let's hear from Mitch Trubisky now, because he did have the 3 touchdown passes. That's a positive in the game against Green Bay, although 2 of them came in the fourth quarter when the game was over. But more importantly, honestly, Greg, the 3 touchdown passes were, basically wiped out by the 3 turnovers. You can't have the same going into at the end of each game.
You got to be plus.
You have to be a plus. So anyway, here's Trubisky. What did you learn after watching the tapes from Sunday night's game?
I think after watching mistakes, the main thing is taking care of the football. And it's easy to say, a little bit harder to do, especially going into it. You just have a mindset, I'm going to take care of the football. I'm not going to force things. But you get into a game, especially early on, when we have a play called that we wanted to take a shot on all week. I take the shot, and the defense made a play than we did. They intercept the ball. Later on in the game, we're down by a couple scores. I try to take another shot. Ball doesn't come out right. The ball doesn't go where I want it to go, and defense makes another good play. And then we have the fumble, which is just harping on 2 hands on the ball in the pocket and protecting that football. So it's definitely frustrating, but some plays it just happens in football. You got to let it go, and you're going to have those throughout the flow of a season and games. And it's a common theme with quarterbacks. You have a better chance of winning when you take care of the football. So it's very obvious to stay. You just got to go out there and do it.
Greg, it's a little disappointing to me, to not hear him say that what he didn't learn from there is that he didn't read the defense properly on either one of his interceptions. He threw into a double team.
I lost you there, David, if you said something.
Okay. Listen, that's usually the story of my life. A lot of people don't listen to me.
I'm not hearing a thing you're saying.
Okay. I don't know why. I hope, can you, why don't you pull your earbuds out? Maybe you'll be able to hear me. Can you hear me, Greg? Aldo, can you hear me?
I can hear you. I'm not sure what happened to.
There we go. I can
Okay.
hear Aldo. I can't hear. Now,
Oh,
okay,
yeah.
there we go.
Can you hear me, Greg?
Yes, I can. So what'd you say?
All right, coming out of that piece of tape, and hopefully you heard that. What I'm disappointed in not hearing from Trubisky is saying that, he and it's something that you've talked about numerous times, that he doesn't learn by reading the defenses or not reading the defenses, because on his 2 interceptions, the first one he threw into double coverage, the second one he threw into triple coverage, and he didn't look off either receiver. That's, he just basically lasered in on both those receivers in those situations. Why does he not learn from that?
That part, I'm not inside his head. I can't answer that. I just know I would have appreciated it a lot more if he would have said, you know what? I came up to the line of scrimmage. I made up my mind that I was going to throw Mooney on the deep ball, even though he wasn't open and double covered. Now, it's the first time I saw it, when we played that play clip, there was a guy wide open on the left side of the field. And probably 20 yards downfield. Could have had a big, an explosive play with that if he had gone to the left side with that. Never looked in that direction. He looked at one guy and one guy only. Same thing happened with the other interception. He looked at Miller. Miller was triple covered. And, defensive coaches aren't dumb. They catch this stuff on film, just like I see it, just like you see it. They see that he zeroes in on one guy. And so those guys are told, watch his head. Where his head's going, that's where the ball's going. If he can learn to look off and then throw to somebody else, they're going to get some big plays only because it's going to fool the defense.
And Greg, I don't know if you saw it up on the screen, but one of our faithful listeners, Brummy Bear, said that Trubisky, unfortunately, is still making the same mistakes 3 years into the league that he did when he first came into the league. I
think he stole that from you, because you say it every week.
Well, but it's true.
I know.
So Brummy Bear is equally as smart as I am.
Yeah, well, he either that or he's stealing your lines, one or the other.
Or I'm stealing his, one or the other. Anyway, all right, let's take our prediction on the game before we get to the rest of the league. And I want to talk about the standings also. I think the Lions are getting 3 points. So the Bears are surprisingly only a 3-point favorite here. I think they're not only going to cover, not only win the game, but I think they cover, although I don't think it's going to be an offensive explosion by any stretch of the imagination. I got the Bears winning this game 17-10.
Okay, I don't think they cover. I think it's 17-14 they win.
Well, that would be a push if it's 3.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Well, so basically you're calling it a low-scoring defensive, pretty much.
Well, have we seen them score points yet this year?
Well, they did put up some points against Green Bay, but again, a lot of that came in the fourth quarter.
Yeah. When's the last time we saw them score on the first drive? Besides never. When have they scored the third quarter besides never this year? I mean, that's things they got to do.
Brummy Bear goes, I'm smart and a thief, Greg. And he's honest. He's an honest, smart thief.
Let's give Brummy a hand.
Yeah, and by the way, if anybody's got any questions, Aldo will put them up on the screen for Greg and or myself. All right, let's go through some of the other games coming up on Sunday. It's really interesting, Greg, although I hope this is a one-year anomaly. We're seeing NFL games on Wednesday afternoon like yesterday. We're seeing games on Tuesday night. I don't know if that's great for ratings or not, to be honest with you, to have games in these weird times. But obviously, this is just a weird year period.
Well, what's the rating you're going to get on a Wednesday afternoon? You're going to beat a soap opera?
I don't know. I'm not really sure. Will they?
That's about it. But I like having football every night. I mean, that's fine with me. TV sucks right now. A lot of the shows that you'd like to watch, if you're into that, they haven't even done much taping because of COVID. So why not see something live that has some action to it?
Yeah, it's really weird. By the way, the game yesterday, Pittsburgh and Baltimore, if you heard the players and the coaches after the game, you could tell they were not happy about playing that game yesterday. Even Roethlisberger, and he didn't play well, obviously, but you could just tell by his post-game interview he wasn't happy. And then Tomlin, he was criticizing his team. They're just not happy, but you know what? It is what it is because
that's
of the whole COVID
situation. They're trying to deal with what reality is right now in the National Football League. The problem they have is now Pittsburgh's got to come back and play Monday night. So they had extra amount of time actually to prepare, but still, they lost a key player, tore an ACL, and Bud Dupree, one of their best pass rushers. And now they're going to have a short week going into their next game, and they have to play it Monday night or late Monday afternoon, whenever the hell that game's going to be played.
Yeah. All right. So it's a question I've been asking you now for like the last 3 or 4 weeks. I'll ask it again. Pittsburgh is now 11-0. They're 5 games away from an undefeated regular season. They have the following games. They got Washington at home.
That
should be a win. They got Buffalo on the road. That'll be their toughest test, Greg.
I'm going to take Buffalo on that one.
All right. Well, we'll ask again in about a week for that one. Then they have Cincinnati on the road, and they finish up.
That's a win.
Probably. They got Indianapolis at home. That should be a good game.
That's going to be a tough game. Except
okay.
The Colts have not played good football the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, they've been really up and down this season, and their defense, which was really good early in the season, is starting to falter.
Yep. Yes.
Their last game should be interesting. Cleveland on the road, and I think the Browns head coach is going to be coach of the year, even though I don't even know who he is right now. But all right, so Pittsburgh at least has a chance to run the table, I guess.
Yeah, you know what I think realistic though is 14-2.
Okay, well that's and then
that's a hell of a season.
Yeah, and then it'll be interesting to see what Kansas City does. I still think Kansas City's the better team overall, but it'll be interesting.
Kansas City's defense, though, is
starting
really
to fall.
Up and down. Yeah. So, but their offense, it's just tough to beat that offense.
Yeah, their offense is like a pinball machine on tilt. They just score automatically. All right, anyway, before we get to the other games on Sunday, the Bears' rest of the schedule. Let's see, they got Detroit and Jacksonville the next 2 weeks at home. I'm going to say those are 2 wins. So now they'll go back over 500 at 7-6, according to my prognostications. Houston on the road, that's going to be a tough game because all of a sudden Houston's playing some good football under your buddy Romeo Crennel.
Right.
And then they got Minnesota on the road. And right now the Vikings are trying to get back into the playoff chase.
Right.
And then they got Green Bay at home, and who knows? By then, Green Bay might have
might have the thing ripped up. You know what? I think it's either going to be 7, based on what we've seen right now, 7-9, and maybe at best 8-8.
All right, which means I win our bet either way, so I'm okay with either one of those. Because you had them having to win 9.
I know.
Okay, they're not going to win 9.
But you already owe me $5, so I keep my money in my pocket.
Well, we'll find another bet before it's all said and done.
Okay.
All right, the other games coming up on Sunday, Greg, this is another week where there's really the matchups are not that good. They're just not. But let's go through the games. Philadelphia and Green Bay.
Philly's awful right now.
Yeah, they really are.
They can't protect Carson Wentz. I saw something, it's like getting sacked like 6 times a game or something like that. And I might be off. It might be 8.
Yeah. All right, Jacksonville, before they come here, they're up in Minnesota. So I think they're going to lose 2 more games, starting with Minnesota this week.
Wow, they got 2 road games, both up north, but at least, they're inside when they play Minnesota. They're going to get cold here. Minnesota's been playing good.
Yeah, overall. New Orleans and Atlanta. Games at Atlanta.
I'll tell you what,
I'm going to pick the upset.
You're going to pick Atlanta, and I might go with you. I mean, who would have thought Atlanta was going to just bury the Raiders last week? And then, Breeze isn't playing in this game.
Right.
Hill's playing quarterback. Yeah, that could be the upset special.
Well, New Orleans is going to have to score because Atlanta will score in that game, and I'm not so sure Hill is going to be able to keep up, putting the points up on the board. So I'm going to take Atlanta. I don't know if it's an upset or not, because I'm not sure who's favored, but I think Atlanta wins the game. Cleveland on the road at Tennessee. That'll be one of the better games coming up on Sunday.
Tennessee just destroyed the Colts in Indy last week, so I got to go Tennessee. They're playing good.
Yeah, they're another up and down team. When they're good, they're real good, but sometimes they can lay an egg also. All right, Cincinnati at Miami.
Miami.
I agree. Vegas and the Jets. Can the Jets actually win their first game?
No.
Okay. Can they run the table?
Yes.
They would only be the second team in NFL history to go 0-16. Is that right?
Yeah. And who was the other one? The Detroit
Lions.
Lions.
Of course. Right. All right. Baltimore and Houston. Baltimore is just falling quickly out of the playoff race.
Well, I'll tell you what, if they got to have RG3 playing quarterback, they have no chance in this game.
Yeah, they're leaking oil badly. All right, the Rams and Arizona, two teams that I'm not really impressed by either one of them.
Rams. I think Arizona is a fraud.
Okay, the Giants at Seattle.
Seattle, especially because Brown might not play. He has a pretty bad hamstring pull.
New England and the Chargers.
Where's it at?
It is in LA.
Upset special. I'm going with the Chargers.
I don't know. They find a way of losing most of their games.
I know they do. And I say it every week. Pep Hamilton is one of my good friends. He's a great coach. He's coaching that great rookie quarterback, Justin Herbert. But the head coach and his clock management is absolutely horrendous. And the defense just isn't playing good. But I love the rookie. I just can't. I don't see New England winning. I'm going to go with the Chargers.
Okay, and then the other game that we have on Sunday it's a Sunday night game. Denver at Kansas City.
That's a given.
That is a given. I think at this point they don't even care who the opponent is. They're just showcasing Patrick Mahomes each and every time.
The quarterbacks at least are available for Denver this week.
Yeah, not that it's going to make that much of a difference.
I hear you. What's the Monday? Then Buffalo's playing on Monday night, right?
Yes. Matter of fact, there's two games on Monday, and then there's a game on Tuesday. In fact, I think the Pittsburgh game is on Tuesday because they played on Wednesday. So I think they moved it back to Tuesday.
Okay.
It's very strange. I want to go over the standings also, Greg, real quickly. We'll go by division. In the AFC East, your Buffalo Bills still are leading at 8-3. Miami is hanging in there at 7-4. You think Buffalo hangs on?
Yep. Who's Buffalo play Monday night?
Aldo will put that up on the screen. I don't have it handy right at this very moment. But let's continue on in the divisions. In the AFC North, we talked about Pittsburgh at 11-0, Cleveland at 8-3, Baltimore leaking oil at 6-5. I think Pittsburgh and Cleveland are obviously automatics. I don't think Baltimore's going to get in there. Buffalo's at San Francisco, by the way.
I'll tell you that San Francisco played really good last week. Well, Buffalo actually isn't at San Francisco; they're at Arizona because that's where that game's being played.
That's true.
And if I'm not mistaken, Buffalo already won in Arizona this year. That when they beat the Cardinals. So I agree with you. I think it's Pittsburgh and Cleveland. Jackson's got to get back for Baltimore to have a chance. And Baltimore, has players out because of COVID. And you're right, they're leaking oil.
Okay, AFC South, Tennessee at 8-3, Indianapolis 7-4. I don't know, two teams that, when they're good, they're real good. When they're not, just the opposite. I think Tennessee hangs on because they have the running attack that I think in the long run holds up better at the end of the season.
Right, and if the Colts, ran the table and Tennessee ran the table, except for I think the last game the Colts play the Titans, or the second last game, but it's in Tennessee, and that could decide the division. I think both teams are in the playoffs. I think right now Tennessee's playing better football, and they're going to win the division.
Okay, and finally, out in the West in the AFC, Kansas City, again, obviously they're a lock, 10-1. Vegas, the second team at 6-5. I don't know what happened to Vegas the other day. They must have had some bad pregame breakfast because they laid the all-time egg.
That was awful. You know what? I don't think Vegas makes it to the playoffs. There's 3 wild card teams this year. Isn't there 3 wild card teams? 7 teams in the playoffs? No, 8 teams in the playoffs, right?
Right.
8 teams playoffs. So they could get in, but I think right now the Dolphins are in, Cleveland's in, Colts are in of the second place teams. And then when you go to the third place teams, okay, it could be Baltimore, or it could be the Raiders, That's got to be a coin flip.
Okay, let's go to the other conference, the NFC East. You love talking about this one. They're all alive. The Giants and Washington.
Saying no team there should be allowed to be in the playoffs because the team's going to have a losing record. But
if you had your druthers, wouldn't you want Washington to at least get in there for Ron Rivera?
Absolutely. But I love the Giants too. I spent 17 years there, and I love the people. The Maras are great people. So. No team's good. Who knows who's going to make it there? But we know there's only going to be one.
Yeah.
And they're going to be done fast. Whatever game is first, they'll lose.
What's disappointing is that Dallas at 3-8 is still alive, and there's at least a chance that Jerry Jones and that lot can get in there. Although they're so horrible, I'm not so sure they will.
I just don't know how Mike McCarthy survives 1 year. After 1 year, they're terrible.
Well, he got the dreaded, vote
of confidence.
Vote of confidence, yes. In the North, obviously, Green Bay leads at 8-3. They're going to win the division. Minnesota's interesting. I don't think the Bears are going to get in. Detroit for sure is not going to get in. Minnesota, I haven't looked at their entire schedule, but they're at least the team that when they, and surprisingly, Greg, because it looked like they gave up earlier in the season and they traded away, one of their great pass rushers.
Right.
But somehow, some way, they've snuck themselves back into the playoff chase.
Yeah, you got to give it to them. They still got a losing record, but they could sneak in only because there's going to be 8 teams. Tampa Bay's probably going to get in, from the South. Atlanta and Carolina aren't. And then you're going to have the Seahawks and the Rams in the West. So, and Arizona, outside chance, but I think that team's falling apart too. But I'll tell you what, I don't like Tampa Bay either. I think Tampa, I said at the beginning of the year, I thought Tampa Bay was a 500 team, and I still think that. They're 7-5 right now, and they've lost, 2 in a row?
Yeah, they have. They have not looked good, obviously. As a matter of fact, that's the next division here. New Orleans leads it at 9-2. Tampa at 7-5. And Brady obviously finally starting to show his age. And it's interesting, Greg. I think Brady's been calling his own plays here the last couple of weeks.
I don't know, but there's been, I've never seen a coach throw a quarterback under the bus as much as Arians has thrown Brady under the bus in the last couple of weeks. So this could only be a 1-year marriage.
Okay, and then finally out west, I think Seattle's still the class of that division at 8-3. The Rams 7-4. Arizona at 6-5. Seattle, is going to get in. I suppose the Rams, if they get a couple more wins, will get in as well. But I don't know. I wasn't impressed even when they beat the Bears. They just did not look good. Jared Goff, I don't know.
He's a hot and cold quarterback. What's nice with having 8 teams in the playoffs this year is that it's really going to go to the last week for those final teams to get in, and that'll at least make it interesting for the fans.
All right, we'll see if there's any questions that come up here on the screen in just a couple of seconds here, Greg. Well, actually, here is one from Jeremy Forer, and he says, who's at fault for Trubisky's mechanics and lack of personnel development? He says it looks like a lack of confidence in the offensive line not stepping into his throws. So mechanically, you scout these guys. If you were scouting Trubisky right now, what would you say about his overall game?
He's had a problem with his feet since day one. That goes with coaching, but at the same time, he just, I think it's all on Mitch. He's not an instinctive player. We've said it a lot over the last couple of weeks. He doesn't process well at the line of scrimmage, meaning, and he's a one-read guy, and if that guy's not, he goes with number one, and if that guy's not there, then who the hell knows what's going to happen with the ball? Until he can learn, and he's not going to have. It's his 4th year in the league. If he's not doing it by now, he's not going to do it, and that's be able to go through a progression.
And, isn't it interesting? Because didn't he say that what he worked on most in the offseason coming into this, regular season is that he was working on his foot mechanics, whatever the hell that means. But, you're saying that he still doesn't
I don't think his mechanics are that bad, as compared to some other years. It's his ability to go through a progression and find a second or third receiver. He just doesn't do it. And case in point, Sunday night.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, like I said, the first interception, double coverage, the second interception, triple coverage.
Right.
And he never looked off either receiver.
That's right.
Unfortunate. All right, here's another one from Hawa Hussein, who's asking, what do you think, Greg, the Bears should do with Ted Phillips? And you worked with Ted Phillips for a while.
Ted Phillips isn't going anywhere.
No, he's not.
Come on. You know what? Every couple of years, this comes up. The media brings it up, and it's not going anywhere. The franchise makes money. That's his job.
Right.
And at that part of the job, he's pretty good at it. You might like him, you might not like him, but at that part of the job, he's pretty damn good at it. And, he's a tough negotiator, brings in money for the family. He can go in anywhere.
Okay, so let me ask you, because is it the same around the league? Because he's the president of the team, but presidents of teams around the league, a lot of them are overseeing the whole football operation, meaning they're more hands-on. I don't think Ted Phillips is as hands-on as maybe other presidents around the league. Is that correct?
My experience is you are right in saying that. He lets the football people do the football things. Now, he wants to know what's going on, and that as president, he should know what's going on, but he doesn't put his 2 cents in. As far as I think you should do this or I think you should do that.
All right. So here's a follow-up question from Hawa Hussein. He's saying, or asking rather, should the Bears hire another football consultant like they did in the year 2015?
They didn't hire a football consultant in 2015. That was a false report. They brought in, unless you want to say Ernie consultant. Ernie, of course, he is a consultant, but Ernie was brought in to help
find a coach.
Find a coach and find a general manager, because Ted, and really, you got to say that was smart on Ted's part. I don't think he picked the right guy, and I like Ernie. I worked with him, but, when you look at Ernie's choices, when he's been a consultant, he's only had one that's been the absolute winner, and that was Tommy Dimitroff in Atlanta, and Tommy just got fired, but he lasted, 10 years down there, before, maybe 11, but, before he got fired, and he took that team to a Super Bowl. So that's the only one where he's had success with, but, some of the other ones, that his choices have been awful, but at the same time, for Ted to go out and bring in an outside guy to help make the decision, I think, that says a little about Ted Phillips, is that I'm not qualified to do this. I'm going to get a football guy to make the decision. In my opinion, they got the wrong football guy, but, some of those guys, like, they use Corsi and a couple other former general managers to do that. That's on the league office. Some of those guys just aren't very good at doing it.
All right, and I believe you're on record as saying no matter what happens in these final 5 games, that Ryan Pace and the head coach, neither one of them are going anywhere. I can't say I'm 100% sure. I mean, I just think, based on my experience with the organization, they're going to be back at least one more year. Okay. All right.
Well, could I be wrong? Absolutely, I could be wrong. I just think, that's the way it's going to be.
All right. So you say they're going to be back next year, and I say we're going to be back on Monday, late morning, as we recap. And I do believe that the Bears are going to win at Soldier Field on Sunday. So, Greg, until then, enjoy the rest of your week and weekend, and we'll talk again on Monday.
Okay. I'm just going to say this, David. If they lose, it's your fault because you picked them.
Yeah, but then I'll win my bet easier.
I
so
know.
I'm okay.
I know. You're good with that.
All right. You take care of yourself. We'll talk again on
too.
Monday. All right. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.